Ronald Diebert, he is a director of Citizen Lab, and he joins us now via Skype. And Ronald, thank you for joining us here on the program. Censorship on WeChat is certainly evolving. It's now filtering content for WeChat users at home in China and overseas without them knowing. Can you tell us more about your findings?
Well, we did a research on WeChat as part of an evolving set of projects that we're working on at examining instant messaging and other applications in China to determine whether there is some kind of keyword filtering or surveillance. So we undertook a series of controlled experiments on WeChat using a variety of different registered phone numbers, some from the United States, some from Canada, some from China. And what we found was that WeChat censors keywords differently depending on your registered phone number. So Chinese registered phone numbers have much more censorship than on registered phone numbers from other countries. However, what we found is that if a Chinese registered user switches phone numbers, for example, if they travel abroad, the censorship follows them around effectively, which is why we call our report One App, Two Systems. It's a bifurcated model of internet censorship, if you will.
Now, to Tencent's credit, WeChat used to notify its users when messages were censored, but that transparency is gone. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. When we did the tests we've been doing tests on WeChat for a number of years, and of course users report receiving notifications saying, I'm sorry, that message is forbidden. Sometimes the message is misleading. In our latest round of tests, we discovered that there's simply no notification to the user. So it's a silent form of censorship, if you will. If I sent you a message and it was filtered, it would simply be removed. And so you would not receive it, nor would you get any indication that I've attempted to send you a message. I think this is probably because the company wants to push the censorship further into the background so that users don't experience it directly. It doesn't cause alarms. But of course, this is a major step towards unaccountability to users.
And if WeChat is censoring and blocking sensitive content, is it also storing and passing it on to Chinese authorities? Is it also a surveillance tool?
Well, that's a very good question, and to answer that properly, you really need to understand how censorship works on applications and how we can do our research to determine whether there's censorship or surveillance. So on some applications, for example, we just did a report about a month ago on Chinese live streaming applications. The censorship and surveillance is pushed to the application on your device. And what we do here at the Citizen Lab is reverse engineer that application, effectively take it apart. In WeChat's case, however, the censorship and whatever surveillance is going on happens on the company side in remote servers, which makes it much more difficult for us to interrogate. We can only do controlled experiments. However, I would say that in all of our other reports that we've done on applications, looking at the client side, we've discovered that the same keywords that trigger censorship often also trigger surveillance. In other words, from that point on, all your conversations are monitored. There's no reason to believe that WeChat isn't doing this. In fact, it's a good bet they are, because in China, all companies are required by law to retain user data and share it with authorities when authorities request that from the company.
And, you know, WeChat has become so dominant in China. I mean, it is effectively the operating system for China's hundreds of millions of mobile internet users. When you got everything else blocked in China, are they going to be stuck with WeChat?
Well, I think China has a thriving marketplace. There are many different applications. And of course, there are companies like Facebook, for example, that are wanting to enter the Chinese marketplace. So it really depends on what type of content you're interested in accessing. And that's partially why we're doing this research, to find out what type of information controls are users experiencing in China. I think it's definitely a filtered environment. Sensitive topics concerning Tiananmen Square, you mentioned Falun Gong, Tibet, are routinely blocked. But we also found blocking around current events. So if there is a protest or some kind of public official is involved in a scandal, we often see censorship around those events and surveillance as well.